Good morning. Thanks so much for joining me this morning to discuss the progress of Tennessee Achieves in Sevier County. My name is Krissy DeAlejandro. I'm the Executive Director of Tennessee Achieves and a longtime friend of the work that's happening in Sevier County, which I think is important and progressive, and certainly have felt really honored to work alongside many of you as we've lifted up a program across the state that in many ways started in Sevier County. Janice, I was worried Janice might not be here, but excited to see her. Janice, I was just saying, I didn't know if you were coming, and then I just got really excited to see your face. Great. So we're going to spend a bit of time this morning talking broadly about Tennessee Achieves and what's happening statewide, but we're also going to jump into the Sevier County specific numbers. As I've said all week, I wish I could be with you in person, but virtual will do for now. And please consider this a conversation. If we were all sitting around a table, I would suggest interrupting me to ask questions or to provide clarification. So please feel free. We're all friends here, so to interject at any point. So, but we're going to get started to be mindful of everyone's time this morning. So I know everyone in Sevier knows this, but just as a reminder, Tennessee Achieves is actually not a state entity. We're a 501c3 nonprofit that raises dollars privately for operations, but we do partner with the state to operate Tennessee Promise in 90 of Tennessee's 95 counties. It is always mind-blowing to me that a program launched in Knox County with 493 applicants the first year now has served nearly 450,000 students, which is just insane, and also recruited and trained nearly 72,000 mentors across the state. So just grounding us in what is Tennessee Achieves, as I said, we provide support to ensure that students are meeting those critical Tennessee Promise milestones, but we're also so much more than that. Recruiting volunteer mentors is the heart of what we do. For me, it is the localness of our mentoring program that makes it so special. It's humans who know your community. It's people who you may see at the grocery store. And for me, that is the game-changing component of this. I don't know if it's because I grew up in rural Tennessee and just really believe in that sense of community that we are trying to create. But again, that relatability for students, I believe, is game-changing. We also have a pillar of community service that began in 2008 when we launched in Knox County as Knox Achieves. This idea of cultivating a culture of giving back is incredibly important to us. A really quick stat. So we do ask students as they're completing their community service every year if they enjoyed their community service effort. And this year, 96% of students said that they did in fact enjoy it. So we got to work on the last 4%, right? But altogether, students are in fact not only cultivating this culture of giving back, but also really enjoying the work that they are doing. We began a program called Summer Bridge in 2012 to address remedial needs that we saw in our students. At the time, 80% of our students required some form of remediation. That's now dropped to the mid-60s, but still a significant challenge that many of our students face. So in 2012, we lifted up a 3-week academic boot camp, and so those are hosted on college campuses. We do have one in Sevier County now every year, as we expanded that program statewide in 2015. The program has an 88% success rate of students either testing out of remediation or improving their test scores. And most importantly to me, we asked our students prior to the program how prepared they felt for college, and only 15% of them responded that they were ready and prepared for college. And at the end of the program, 97% of them told us they felt prepared for college. So yes, it is an academic program, but I do know that I know Walter State leadership is here. They can also tell you having that student on campus can be game changing, right? They get to know humans on campus. They get to understand in a very supportive way what's offered on campus. And in my mind, again, sort of game changing. We also have lifted up this year something that we engineered in-house, an online summer bridge program where students were participating again in those English, reading, and math requirements prior to the fall semester in an online environment. And we saw a great amount of success there. And then finally, we do have a Summer Institute program, which is a much more intensive program. It's credit bearing. I'm happy to report that this year specifically for the students who participated in the Memphis Urban Core, 100% of them not only eliminated remediation, but they left with 9 credit hours. So students who would have began behind because of the co-requisite model in Tennessee are now starting with 9 credit hours in the fall. So we're hoping to begin the expansion of this program across the state. We also have a proactive coaching model that we call Complete. This is for our most economically disadvantaged students. We are a very data-driven organization, and what we know is that the lower the household income, the less likely you are to retain and complete a college credential. And so we are doing a very proactive deep dive with these students. We're serving about 14% of Tennessee Promise students across the state. You have your own complete coach who would be assigned to the students in your area, who again is just working to really remove non-academic barriers that many of our students face. And then, as always, I think it's important to highlight our targeted student communication. I believe this is, again, to go back to this word, but game changing. We did not have this when we lifted up the program 13 years ago, but the fact that we can be very specific with students and families about where they are in the process, I believe is shifting the culture and shifting this idea of getting, for lack of a better term, buttoned up sooner in the process so they can make that smooth transition to college. 90 counties, again, 74 rural communities, 35 considered at risk or distressed, and we do work in 601 high schools. 67 colleges currently fall under the Tennessee Promise, Tennessee Achieves umbrella. 79% of our students, no surprise here, are finding themselves at places like Walter State at our 13 community colleges. We have 11% enrolling in our technical colleges or TCATs. And then the final 10% are finding their way to four-year institutions offering an associate's degree program. So we work with about 90,000 students every year. Again, just sort of mind-blowing to me. 60,000 of those students are new high school seniors that we assume responsibility for in November of their high school senior year. With that number, it translates into 89% of the state's high school seniors coming through the Tennessee Achieves program every year. That then translates into 78% of first-time, full-time freshmen enrolled at the state's community colleges belong to Tennessee Achieves, and even more importantly, to me, we do make up 86% of the community college graduates across the state. 56% of our students are considered economically disadvantaged as measured by Pell eligibility, federal Pell eligibility, and 40% identify as the first in their families to go to college. I recently presented to the National Science Board, and they did ask me, of your cohort of students, what percentage major in STEM or health-related fields? And I was pleasantly surprised when we pulled the number that it is 51%. And of that 51%, 27% fall into that health-related field category, which I know makes our workforce friends very happy considering the nursing shortages that we continue to hear about. $32 million spent annually on Tennessee Promise scholarships, with Tennessee Achieves raising an additional $2.5 million for its operating budget. Okay, let's dig into Sevier County. The first, big indicator, I think, in terms of evaluating a college-going culture in a community is the free application for federal student aid, or FAFSA, completion rate. You can see here some really amazing counselors in Sevier County. You have to give all the credit to them. Yes, it's a concerted effort between K-12 and post-secondary, and Tennessee Achieves plays a small role in trying to bring it all together. But it's truly the work of school counselors who are working tirelessly to remove this barrier for students. 85% completion rate in Sevier County. To benchmark it for you, most states don't even hit 50%. So the fact that students are at 85% is truly remarkable. Randy Boyd, the chairman of our board, says that Tennessee Achieves is the largest community service program in the state. I don't actually know if that's true, but no one has told us otherwise. But you can see here, our students have given back 3.4 million hours of community service since we launched, and nearly 50,000 hours in Sevier County. You will hit the 50,000 mark in December this year, which I think is just an incredible accomplishment itself. Okay. All right, so let's look at some additional Sevier County numbers. So every year, Sevier County has a very high Tennessee Promise application completion rate. It's in the 90s every year. So you can see here, 959 students completing the Tennessee Promise application. Of that, 339 are enrolling at a Tennessee Promise eligible institution. Now, keep in mind, if you have students that are off to ETSU, Carson-Newman, the University of Tennessee, that would not be reflected in that 339. That 339 only represents institutions under the Tennessee Promise eligibility umbrella. Of that, 62% are retaining fall to fall. A little lower than the statewide average, but I will tell you that you guys are knocking it out of the park in terms of 3-year graduation rate. So whatever you're losing the first year, you are making up on the back end and getting those students to a credential. I don't know that any of us, especially at Tennessee Achieves, are excited about 35% or even 39%. But I can tell you this, when I stepped into this space in 2008, the 3-year graduation rate for the state was 14%. So if you think about 14 and where we are now, we've come a long way, but certainly more work to be done. First year retention, just to walk you through some additional statewide numbers at community colleges for first-time freshmen is 53%. This is just sort of an overall broad number. If that student is participating with Tennessee Achieves, it jumps to 67%. And then you can see here, 74% of students who are going anywhere are retaining in their first year. We also have a snapshot of our 6-year graduation rates. It's 35% statewide and 51% for Tennessee Achieves students. So this would capture students who transfer and then earn their degrees at that 4-year institution as well. To walk you through some really quick program metrics, I talked about summer programs. Summer programs, yes, it's great that they have an 88% success rate for the students participating, but what is it doing to help us toward our completion goals? You can see students who are participating in summer programs, their first year retention has increased by 34%. Students who are participating in our coaching model complete have increased their retention rate by 23%. And then Knox Promise, thanks to the Haslam Family Foundation, a pilot that began in Knoxville several years ago, allows every student, regardless of income, to have a dedicated Tennessee Achieves coach. So we have 5 coaches in Knox County alone, working alongside all our Tennessee Promise students. And that is coupled with something we refer to as completion grants. Completion grants are really emergency aid, is what they're typically called. I don't love that word. So we call them completion grants. And students who are working with their coach and have received a completion grant have a 78% first-year retention. So you got 53 and 78. So again, a game-changing kind of number, and a program that we're looking to replicate across the state. I was telling someone recently, if we do anything well at Tennessee Achieves, it's trying to create proof points. So let's raise dollars privately to create something that and show that it is showing progress, creating momentum, changing the landscape for students, and then we take that to the state to say, would you consider funding this for all students across the state? Okay, so here's my really somber slide that we have shared, and we are sharing with all 90 counties that we serve this week. You can see here all the gain that was made with Promise in 2015 was lost in 2020 due to COVID. You can see how that's specifically affected Sevier County. So your college going rate would be your students going anywhere, right? No matter where they go, they're going to be captured in this number. Sevier County saw an 8% drop, 8 percentage point drop in your college going rate, which for me is a call to action. I do believe that we can make this up and make it up quickly. But it was incredibly important to me that we let our local communities know exactly where they stand and the loss that they have seen because of COVID. So, with a call to action, I think of a couple of things that communities can do. I saw Janice when she popped on. She is the Chief Mentor Recruitment Officer for Sevier County, and that's been for a really long time. There would be no mentors in Sevier County if not for Janice. And we're back at it again. So the class of 22 mentor recruitment season is open. I will tell you that while the role is the same, so still that encouragement, still making sure students are meeting critical milestones and being that resource for students. So those three roles remain the same. The delivery will look a little different for the class of 2022. Number one, last year we invested a lot of time and resource into Tennessee Achieves Connect, an online platform that we have truly had rave reviews about. I still mentor students every year, and I will tell you that it was game-changing for me. I would rate myself on an organizational scale, like 1 to 10, 10 being really hyper organized at like a 3.5. The fact that I could keep all my student information in one place and that we could provide it to you in near real time. Much of the updates were happening every 24 hours as we were receiving them from the state or from the institution. In my mind was game changing. I also spent a lot of time video chatting with my students and my mamas. And so I love that it was all sort of housed in one place. So that will continue to be a resource for all our mentors this year. We're hoping to be in front of students in November and December to explain the importance of communicating with your mentor on this platform. We are also working with our post-secondary partners to lift up in March and April, rather than going into the high schools, coming to the post-secondary institutions for what we're referring to as open houses. So come to Walter State and see all they have to offer and also meet your mentor there. And so we're really hoping to have meaningful experiences during these open houses. And we're going to encourage, in a way that we've never done before, more one-on-one meetings between mentors and students. It's been happening since inception. I know, for example, going back to Randy, he meets his students from South Doyle High School for pizza every year to do an introduction meeting. Doesn't have to be pizza, right? But just finding time for mentors and students to connect. So several options that we will dig more into during mentor training, but wanted to get that on everyone's radar. The application is live now and will close on December 3rd. Like always, we need about 145 mentors in Sevier County. If you are currently a mentor, you renew and you receive a 30-minute webinar to make sure that you are up to date on all things mentoring for Tennessee Achieves. And then if you are renewing, if you are new, right, it's a 1-hour training with an application. So with that 50% college going rate in Sevier County, if you're thinking like, what do we do? So number one, become a mentor, find mentors, right? We've got to help students understand the value proposition and how wonderful institutions like Walter State truly are. You can see that nearly 40% 3-year completion rate, outpacing the state. So all really good momentum in that space. And it's an all hands on deck situation. I told someone earlier this week, if there's ever been a critical time in higher education, I do feel like it is now. Also allowing us to come in and share our story. I think the reason that Tennessee Achieves has been successful is because we've always said yes to any open door. If the door is open, we want to share our story. We want to share not just mentorship, but how we're really doing in that particular community. And then if you know any high school seniors or parents of high school seniors, the application for Tennessee Promise is open. It opened on August 1st and will close on November 1st. And so I think we just enrolled students on Monday at many of the post-secondary institutions. And now we will start working closely with school counselors on recruiting that class of 2022. This is my contact information. That is my cell phone. Please feel free to reach out to me anytime. My door is always open for any feedback or suggestions. The reason I feel like we are where we are today is because we continue to listen to our communities who do provide us with really important feedback. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen and allow you to ask any questions or provide any feedback or comments that you may have. Nothing? It's too early, huh? Well, thank you all again for hopping on. I appreciate all of you. Like I said, I see so many friends on the screen. Jama, how are you? I appreciate you all so much. My door is always open. So I hope to be back in Sevier County soon. You know, Sevier County, don't tell everyone else, but Sevier County High School's meeting is always like my favorite meeting. So I always try to make it to that one. So hopefully we'll be back there soon. So thank you all so much. Hey, Janice, you hopped off. You got something to add?
Yeah, can we get a copy of your PowerPoint, Krissy?
Absolutely. Graham's going to send them out, Janice, to everybody. So
okay, great. Thank you.
End of the week. Absolutely. Well, thank you.
Good to see you.
Good to see you. Happy Wednesday.